Honest J. Nowak. Oh yeah. A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to HJN. So, of course, the many subjects that I got in line for the rest of the whole week itself is a pretty big step here. But what I'm going to do first of all is that I'm going to move some of those other subjects that I would not want to talk about at all, but yet I probably would have to do it anyways in the future. So I'm just going to move some of them up to right around now, so that way I can talk about them and get them over with. The first one that I've got that I really would not want to start talking about at this point is Seth Macfarlane. Yeah, another particular person in my life that I felt like talking about here on HJN. So, let me break it down for you. In the 90s, Seth MacFarlane would have been best recognized at the time for voicing characters such as Peter, Stewie, and Brian Griffin on the television series Family Guy, which first aired for the very first time on January 31, 1999. Just less than 6 months before my birthday would even occur. And yet the series itself, it had originally been canceled by 2002. In 2005, they managed to make a big resurgence. And since then, episodes have been coming around all the time. The series itself has gotten a lot of mixed reviews from so many critics out there, and even though the fan base of it has grown ever so largely, it seems that the last 5 years or so of the series itself have been a little sketchy, and rather a bit generic at this point. Family Guy might have been as amazing as it was in the first 7 or 8 seasons alone, but of course for that whole decade itself, I mean, that was pretty much just the golden age for it. Because Family Guy, the main reason why it got so big at the time was because it went as far as to really pointing out every big thing out there that is as controversial as ever. A mixture of such usages of language, sexual adaptations, some points in racism or narcissism, or many of these other things in life that we just rather avoid. And because we've gotten a lot of people out there who would not want to go ahead and enforce any of those, it's like Family Guy was really trying to tell us something. That our future could really hold a lot of devastation and chaos for us if we would not subdue any of those actions. If we never stopped having racism or narcissism, then the world today would have been a lot different than it would have been. Family Guy sure brought out a strong message to do whatever it takes to not allow any of the stuff that's shown on television to be replicated or reenacted in real life. We can all thank Seth MacFarlane for at least putting that together. But the one thing that I would not want to mention anything about is the fact that, well, even to this day, Family Guy itself still continues to bring out the message. But yet the big picture about it is that it's no longer functional, nor is it even worth anything. It really doesn't have a point in life anymore because, after all, considering what has happened in the last 5 years, with the many nightclub shootouts, assassinations, homicides, poisonings, drunk driving incidents, or mobile phone related accidents, or hundreds of other different types of fatal injuries or deaths that have taken place, it's a wonder why, of course, the message may not have been clear enough. That's just one reason why I would not want to talk about Seth MacFarlane today, because of course they tried really hard back then. Seth MacFarlane tried to broadcast a message to us about what our lives could end up turning out if we did not stop any of these things from happening. But the sad truth is that off the top of my head, with all the major incidents that have taken place in the last 5 years or so, especially with the many things that have happened throughout most of 2017, That year alone was just a huge statement because it was one of the years that President Trump was in office, and yet it was one of those years where we just lost our minds. We were really turning the tide on what Family Guy and Beavis and Butthead and Homestar Runner and what many of these other shows happened to tell us about. What life could possibly mean for us if we acted like them. But we were much worse than that. We were truly capable of stuff that was way worse than any of that stuff on television. It's a wonder why it was rated TV 14 and not TV MA. Otherwise, the message would have been stronger than it should have been. And that's would have been much more better to my mind. I mean, as a society, we might have just failed on all that stuff here. But throughout more recent times, here in 2020, with NCOV, it's given us a clear message that we should definitely reconsider our actions. Many of us should try and turn a new leaf every now and then, because if we do not, jail time, death, fugitive, it doesn't matter which category you're on at this point. But the thing is that you're more than just liable enough to get into those spots because of things you do in the past. They're always going to be printed out on paper. They're always going to be shown on the web. No one is going to let certain things go. And so, of course, that's why, by the time I turned 16 years old, I had done everything I possibly could to avoid any of those issues from taking place. And I would do everything in my power to ensure that they never happen. Ever in my life. Because they would be the worst things I probably would have ever done in history. I would have ended up in prison by now. So that's pretty much all I have left to talk about. So if you want to see more, go down to my channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.